Hello. Hi. So I've got some topics. I went all day thinking I have too much to talk about for this short drive, and I knew my fear would be that I'd get in the car and I wouldn't be able to think of any of it, and it would all be gone. And I'm gonna say it's about half true. But the best way is to just jump in and see what you can remember. One of the things I wanted to talk about was our correspondence, our game we started, C4, knight F6, knight C3. You remember that one? C4, it was C4, knight F6, knight C3, G6, D4, bishop G7, E3, D6, and bishop D2 was the last thing. So I looked that up, by the way. I put it on the board and I wanted to see it, and I remember asking you guys what the bishop in the corner could see on the long diagonal. It can't see past its own knight, of course, but if the knight moves, then it could see that pawn on D4. Anyway, needless to say, we left book, especially when we hit D2. Book opening is long gone. Whatever openings we were doing, we're out of it now already. So in terms of like opening practice, it might not be the best. It might be cool to see what you're supposed to do until you're truly out of book. Leaving book on the third or fourth move, that means you're just, I don't know. If it doesn't have a name, then there's probably a reason that it doesn't get played, and probably because he closed in that bishop and now he's just trying to escape and your pieces are all closed off and you're white. You're supposed to be out and about. So anyway, as I was putting it in the computer or on my little phone, I saw that there's I think on move 3 or something, it's called English the Great Snake variation. And I was like, oh, tell me more. So I watched a short video and I was like, oh, that looks cool. At least then, if we look at that, it's sort of it's got the King's Indian style of attack on the king's side, you move your pawns up, your F pawn and everything, it all goes up. And then it's an English opening. So anyway, it looked cool. It might be worth backpedaling, and maybe once we have a bit of a communication between me and anyone else, I would say that we should play a game of correspondence chess. We should play I'll do a side and I'll explain my move and why I did it, and then anyone may offer a move for black. I'll play white, or maybe we'll flip around. We'll mull it over. We'll decide which move is best for what. Anyway, I want to write down. I would like to do a game that's so concrete that I write in my little book, and I'll be like, hey, look, we played this game together as I was driving around. Wouldn't that be fun? I'd say nothing more than a move or two per day, and then we'll just have this cool game. And if things get too crazy, because with correspondence chess you can check engines and stuff, and I think maybe for what we're doing now it'd be good to be able to explain why you're doing certain things as opposed to just tossing out an engine line. And I don't know honestly, anything at this moment would be something to deliberate. It's not about winning or losing a game of correspondence chess while I'm driving around. It's about what things can happen out of the opening, and if we slowly build a body of knowledge, say around the ideas of the black attacking on the king's side and white playing C4 in the opening, a passive. What I'm learning about the English is that it can be so many things there's certain ideas for English, but it leaves the game open. Until you move those center pawns, you don't know what it's going to be like. All the games are interesting. I like the English, I think, for that reason. It's always different. You never know. So anyway, if I was to say, let's reset from, maybe it was move 3? I don't know. We'll go c4, knight f6, knight c3, g6, and then g3, I think. If we go g3, I think it's called the Great Snake or something. Oh, we'll have to look it up. But anyway, I don't want to get too far into it this time. I just think that maybe we should work on something. It might be fun. Might be fun to have like a game going on the side. Yeah, so yeah. First we need to look up the rest of the Great Snake. We need to figure out where the opening sort of stops. If we're gonna like go down that line. Try that sort of English variation to start. We're gonna have to look it up a little bit. But anyway, I need to talk about some other things. Like yesterday, I was all prepared for buckling down, getting ready for today, and playing, practicing. I took my board out and I put it on the table. I got a position going, and something I've tried once or twice before is playing a game against the computer, except using the board. So I get used to seeing it on a physical board as opposed to just playing on my little screen, because I'm still battling that sense of like estrangement when I go to the real board versus playing on the screen. There's such a disconnect. Like it takes time just to absorb that information in a new way. So if I just get used to that, then that's a whole mental block freed up. So anyway, just setting up this position to try and beat like a 2000 rated computer. And well, I started going, and it was going good, and I was thinking about my stuff, and I started having these cool ideas of how I'm going to think about it. My whole thing was like, I'm gonna sit here and I'm going to think about what the best thing is to do. Too often, when I'm playing on my phone, it's 3-minute games with a 2-second. That's basically my go-to. Playing the odd 10-minute or 15-minute game. I try to do that, but time is limited, and you never know when you're gonna get to see a game like that through all the way. So yeah, having to really sit on a position, that's hard. No one's forcing me to do it, and thusly my mind wandereth all over the place. So I'm playing this position, and I start talking to myself like, just imagining the storyline. I imagine chess games a lot like Naruto battles or something. In this case, I was sort of picturing Star Trek, and the king's the captain, and he says, give me an update on the coordinate. Do attendance. And then I would make all the pieces report that they're where they were to the king. Pawn A1. Imagination, right? So anyway, and then I was going around, it's like, okay, what territory do we own? And then the people in the A file would report, oh, we've got a dark squared bishop up here, or we've got 2 eyes on A3. It's a safe square, and stuff like that. I was having so much fun. I totally lost track of playing the game, and I got obsessed with the narrative of my pieces giving me reports about the position, and I fell, I fell in love with the idea to the point where I wasn't playing chess anymore, and I would force it. I made it all the way up to the F file from A, doing like this little bits and bobs, pointing out things about the thing from every position, and it's helpful. I gotta say, I'm on to something. And now I'm talking fast, and I'm excited. There was a lot to say, and this is what it is. So what happened was, I got up from the table, and I picked up Minecraft, and I started building my vision of like telling this story with the pieces. Like, people, have you ever watched anyone stream Minecraft videos? They make these stories, and all they do is they're just the characters, the avatars that they choose for Minecraft, and they build whatever world is appropriate for what the story that they're telling. So I start going, and I built a creative flatland, and I erased the ground, and I made this giant grid of for the board, obviously. Duh. Sorry, I'm just so all over the place. I made this pawn, and then I duplicated the pawn using the duplication block. I know a couple of things about creating stuff in creative mode in Minecraft, and I've had this dream of incorporating chess to Minecraft, creating this world where you see, I have this hope that my son, whom I love and appreciate my son very, very much. He is an intelligent and hilarious boy, and just the best. And I want the best for him. And naturally, as a chess player and someone who sees the benefits of playing chess, I want him to also understand why I'm going crazy about chess, and maybe get into it a little bit himself and start to enjoy the practice and the skill. And right now, if I open up a chess book and I start reading it to him, he just starts screaming in a hilarious way. He's just like, the pain, it's too much. Right now, I'm the only chess player in my household. So I wouldn't mind if I succeeded in creating something entertaining enough that he might watch. I mean, he likes watching Minecraft videos. I don't know what I'm hoping for. A guy can dream, right? So I was just thinking, if I made Minecraft a cool story, my thing is, I don't understand why chess isn't even more popular than it is, because chess is amazing, but I think to the common person, they're too afraid of it, and it seems only like work and not fun, which is, as chess players, we know that's not the case. But as someone who doesn't know chess, the joys of chess, then they need a bit more. And I understand that too, because sometimes I need more as well. So creating this chess RPG, like Minecraft story mode, out in space, with the pieces telling you updates. Oh man, passion project, right? I was off sick a couple days, and the things I would do if I had spare time, I tell you, things would be going a lot faster. But hey, here we are, and I started. I'm happy with at least the beginnings of what I did, and then maybe I'll be making videos with Minecraft, and that'll be your screen. There's entertainment for you. Forget the podcast. I want to see this guy in Minecraft. I want to see the video part. Not now. No, it's not just some face in the dark. Oh, yeah. So, see, here's my problem. I don't think I haven't even gotten to the main thing I wanted to talk about today. There's too much to say. I can't, there's too much. So, what do you think was the problem? We saw the scenario. Here I am. Very, I'm stuck with whatever is exciting for me. That's what I end up doing, right? So the problem was I got taken away from my chess training to do something that my brain was more bored. You know, this whole creating content thing has made it so that I'm not bored. And we're about to talk about boredom. That is the headline. This is the title. Boredom. What is boredom? I looked it up. It's also called ennui. This perpetual state of being dissatisfied, you know. It's not pleasant. I gotta say, living most of my life in a state like that, or having states like that quite often, constantly struggling against this feeling. And okay, I'm gonna stop shouting now because I'm here, so that's good. The phone seems far away, so I don't know. While I'm driving, it seems like I need to talk really loud. So boredom isn't bad. Not for chess. Boredom is terrible. Yes, by itself, boredom is bad. If you don't know what to do with it, it hurts. Being bored as an ADHD person, it's like holding your breath. So if you have a boring job, say, say for example, what about I don't know, plastering and sanding and stippling and taping, and you know, maybe to someone who hasn't done that before, they'd be like, oh, what a fun thing to do. You're working with your hands. Yes, well, that's exactly it. You're working with your hands, and once your hands know what they're doing, they don't need the brain anymore. The hands are going to take care of you for the whole time you're at work. You're going to be driving. You're either driving or you're working. I know I'm not saying you don't need to think while you're driving. You don't need to think about how to turn the wheel left and right when you've done it 10 million times. That's my point. And it's the same with plastering. Your brain you're not engaging in these activities as if it's your first day. And it can be quite unexciting. It can be boring. Since we're talking about it, let's just say it. Oh, boredom. But that's why we're here, and that's why I'm here. You've never seen a boy so bored as me, and I'm on my job. You see that last video I made? It's a video from last year of me trying to explain how to coat ceiling seams. Do you hear the boredom? Do you hear, even when I'm trying to create content for the masses, you can't, the sadness. I see my sadness in that video, and it I don't know. Let's get in. Let's dig into that all another time, because we're about to jump into chess, and we need to talk about how the fact that boredom has led me to chess, and how great chess is for boredom. You can't be bored. This is what I was saying earlier about Magnus saying stressful and boring. Stressful, yes, I agree. Boring, no, not yet. So the way you teach yourself can be boring, see? And then my brain won't let that happen. I'll be plugging away, looking good on a screen or on my over the board. I'm moving my pieces and I'm like, what should I do? What should I do? And my brain just makes it entertaining, and I get this great idea of how I can make it more entertaining, and all of a sudden all I can think about is making this thing for Minecraft as opposed to training for the game that I'm about to play. So I've entertained myself too heartily. I'm ready to do, like, when you have entertainment, chess is like, oh, this is it. This is my example. I'm sorry I keep cutting myself off. My son, we're sitting we're out, and the only game I have now on my phone is the chess app. And he's like, oh, he's bored, he's waiting, and he's sitting, he's like, he's bored. I'm like, well, all I have is chess. Do you want to try? Do you want to play a game? And he's like, sure. Yeah. Boredom, my friends. No wonder. Absolutely. Why would he ever want to play chess when he's got YouTube and he's got these other games and he's got shows and he's got an entire world of entertainment at his fingertips? Why would he bother? Why would anyone? For chess to really hit, you need to be hungering a little bit for something to give you a boost. If you already have the boost, chess loses some of its luster. Suddenly it's just work. But if you're looking to the board to give you something that is missing, that's when you're focusing. That's how I can just rhyme off, oh, chess visualization tip number 5 for the knights, instead of me going QA's instead of going A1, C1, E1, G1, B2, D2, F2, H2, instead of saying all the dark squares and light squares like that, I've made it night jumps now. I go A1, B3, C1, D3, E1, F3, G1, H3. And then I'll swap it. I'll try another one as I'm going, because while I'm driving, and that's the easiest and best, most productive way I can be without breaking my brain, without taking my main focus away from what I'm doing. I can easily practice chess, a chess fundamental, while I'm out. And that's the key. You got to utilize boredom. You got to take the times that your brain doesn't know what to do. That's when you try anything. That's when you work on endgames. That's when you work on an opening or anything that your brain was like, I don't want to do that. If you're satisfied, if you're going through, you're electrified and you're good. You're not bored. Play Blitz. Play Bullet. Who cares? Because you're already up, and you're going to want to keep that going, and to try and pull yourself away from that level of reception of good feelings. You need I gotta stop. 25 minutes. But you get it. Boredom is good. Boredom is useful. Boredom is bad. But boredom can be used. Wish me luck. Game 3. Okay. Listen up. I'm for mood. I'm still in shock. I gotta tell you, man, what a game. It is now, what time is it? We pushed the clock to the end. Wow. Listen to this. Listen. I was black. E4, D6. Perk, you know. He did E4, I do D6. Bishop C4. Don't usually see the bishop out. He got him on that diagonal where my king is. It was there most of the game. Spoilers. Knight. Knight C6. Uneventful. I'm just still coming down. I'm just coming down. Yeah, Knight C6. I did that because my opponent was 1600 and he knew I was 1100, and I had this feeling like he was going to go for, like, I don't know. I have this thing I like to do to people in Blitz who are like going for the quick scholar's mate. So I did Knight C6 because after you go Knight C6, you can go over to E5 and it forks the queen. If they were thinking about bringing the queen out, sorry, holy smokes, then I could fork the bishop and the queen in scholar's mate and protect the piece they're trying to, that F pawn. But anyway, so E4, D6, bishop C4, knight C6 to prevent scholar's mate thingies. He goes knight F3, I go knight F6. I got both my knights out now. He goes D3, preparing for his other bishop to come out at some point. I go G6, preparing my bishop, King's Indian style, fianchetto. He goes H3, preventing me from getting, going up to that square. H3 prevents bishop or knight going to G4. Bishop, so he went H3, I go bishop G7, complete the fianchet, and he goes C3. I castle, he castles. I go E5. He goes bishop E3. Yeah, he brought the bishop out, like I said. Knight E4. I go knight E7. And he goes queen D2. And I go king H8. Crazy, right? Why king H8? Not crazy. Not crazy. Remember we were just looking at the snake, cobra snake? What was it? Anyway, it seemed to make sense to get the king out of the diagonal of the bishop and also prepare a knight to jump on to that G7 square to protect things, to maybe protect H6, which he did most of the game. Anyway, so he went queen D2, I went king H8, he went bishop H6, and I go bishop takes H6. He goes queen takes H6. No, yeah, and then I go knight G8. I made that spot for the knight. I played good chess today. My best. Knight G8. Yeah, I went knight G8. He backs off his queen H4. Spends the whole game, spoilers, spends the whole game on queen H4. Present, just never present, but also off to the side. So he goes queen H4, I go F6. Which is why I moved that knight, because I wanted to be able to move that pawn up. He goes G4. I go D5. I'm going to lose. I'm not going to be able to give commentary if I might lose certain spots. So anyway, he goes G4. I go D5. He goes bishop B3. Oh yeah, I pushed his bishop back, I guess. Yeah. Queen D6. is what I do. Yeah, get that queen up there, protecting f6. And he goes knight b, d2. I go a5. Purely out of options are limited. On the one side, the board was fixed. Like, there was nothing, no progression to be had there that I could find. So I was like, well, Irina Krush said open secondary fronts, and then it's like I could push and maybe get that dastardly white bishop off that file, which I never do, I don't think. So anyway, so I push my a pawn. I go a5. He goes rook a to d1, and I go c6, and he goes d4, and I go e takes d4, because if he had taken, trouble would brew, and I'd open up the diagonal that my queen was on. So it's better to take. E takes d4, knight takes d4, bishop d7, knight 4 to f3, because they're on the same file. You can't, you have to distinguish by rank. Knight 4 f3, and then I go b5, protect pawns and stuff, and he goes e takes d5, and I go c takes d5, and he goes knight e4. And I was waiting for him to do queen e or knight e4. This was a long game, 90 minute 30-second overlay or whatever, and we're using our clock time. We ran it to a couple minutes each, and that's what decided it. Anyway, so he goes knight e4, and I can't take with the pawn, because then my queen would be attacked by the rook and you would get it. So, but then I go queen f4, and he tells me, I got to talk to him after, he was surprised by that. And rightly so, because I'm attacking both knights, and one of them is doubly attacked because it's got that pawn looking at him too. He had no choice but to knight e d2 to send it back. Then bishop c6 is what I do. Maybe bishop c6 is what I do. Though, yeah, maybe he was always protecting. I thought I had an opportunity to eat his queen, and only the computer will show now. I thought that I could use one of my knights to attack the queen, which you wouldn't be able to take back because of the pawn, the g pawn, because my queen is on f4, where our queens are separated just by a pawn, so he can't use that pawn for anything else if his queen is undefended. You see what I'm saying? So I think I had an opening to just win the queen and have a short game right there, but I missed it, if it was even there. Anyway, so I was thinking about that, kicking myself during the second half of the game. Bishop c. Okay, so he went knight e d2. So I went queen f4. He went knight e back to d2, and I go bishop c6. He goes knight d4. I have to go back to bishop d7, and he goes rook f to e1. I go rook a to e8, defending the knight, and he goes knight 2 to f3. Maybe that was my opening. No. Anyway, sorry, I'll stop thinking about it. Knight 2 to f3. I go f5. He goes g takes f5, and I go queen takes h4. And yeah, the queens get traded off. Oh man, what a moment when there's like nothing left to do. For some reason, I mean, scared of my opponent, right? It's high level, and I played like a turtle. I caged, and then, but finally, I was like, okay, I can't not play f5 now. I have like 8-9 pieces looking at this. I had my whole army ready for the f5 push, so I did it. G takes f5, queen takes h4, knight takes h4 back, and then I had to think. I knew that pawn was mine, so I was like, well, maybe it'll be helpful to push, to do not take with the pawn. I don't know. So I went g5, but I forgot that I'd immediately need to defend g5, so I lost the tempo, and that's all it would take, honestly. So anyway, so I went g5, making his knight have to go knight h to f3. So then I have to go h6 to defend the pawn I just pushed. And then he goes knight e5. And I went bishop takes f5. Bishop takes because the bishop's under threat. So then he goes knight takes f5. And then I have to take with the rook, because if I took with the knight, he would have had a fork. I caught this stuff. You hear? Do you see the stuff I managed to see? Rook takes f5. So yeah, I went rook takes f5. He goes bishop takes d5. Oh yeah, the pawn. And then I have to get my king over. King g7 he needs to participate, and I need to get off that checkable square from that knight. Is crazy. I wouldn't be surprised if I found all the right moves. If the computer's like, showmanship, mister. Great. Awesome. Look at you. Maybe. I felt for a while there was only one option. Anyway, and I found the things I found, and so he goes bishop takes d5. I go king g7. He goes knight c6. I go king f8, protecting whatever's happening. Now, I had to, and then bishop takes g8. Oh yeah, he takes my knight, and he probably thought I was going to take back with either the king or the other knight. But I take his knight. I take knight takes e6. And then he has to do something else. And then he goes rook takes e8. Now the herd is very thin. There's not a lot of people left. So rook takes e8. He went rook takes e8, which I have to take back with the king. King takes e8. And then he goes rook to d6, threatening my pawn. I'm quite sure. And then I go knight e7. And he does a perfect job protecting the king there. Bishop h7, he goes. And that was an attack on my rook. And also I can't defend that pawn, so I thought I was going to lose the pawn. So I set up rook e5 to potentially get up and eat the pawns. Threaten. If you can't protect something, see what you can attack. And sometimes that's better. Anyway, he responded to that. He went king f1 to prevent my idea. But that gave me a chance to move that pawn. So I go h5. He goes f3. He pushes a pawn, which is fine. I go knight f5. Assuming that if he takes with the bishop, I take back, and at least I'm eyeballing that one pawn that he would have to do something about. But he doesn't take the knight. He went king f2. Do you see the problem? He left his rook. He left his rook hanging. The backwards knight move. Knight takes d6. And he resigned. He resigned. Man, he was not happy with himself. You know, great game, great guy, and we talked about it after. He's cool. He's just, you know, solid dude. And but wow, to go through all that to plunder a rook. I can only imagine if I had done that, how I would feel. So I'm surprised he didn't flip the board. What a game. I've never played so well. I beat a 1600. What does that say? What does that mean about me? It doesn't mean I'm 1600. I play every Thursday. He says he hasn't been around in a while. He might, you know. Anyway, blunders happen in the game. He would have won that end game. He's like, I was better at the end. He had that extra pawn. Most likely. But we were down to 3 minutes each. That's not a lot of time for this crazy. We broke our brains on that game. I did. He did too. You know, I could tell. My defense was frustrating him. I can't believe how well everything came together and protected each other. I've never played a game of chess like that. To that degree of quality. Didn't mess anything up. Maybe I could have eaten his queen. Maybe there was that opportunity. I didn't do anything wrong. Ish. You know? I'm not saying I made every best move. You know, it's not what I'm saying when I say I didn't mess anything up. I mean, I didn't one move blunder. I didn't one move blunder anything. I didn't miss any possible tactics that I kept an eye on everything. I knew he was going to do that knight e4 and attack the queen, which I couldn't take back with I knew he was going to do that. I had queen f4 in my pocket if he did that. Unbelievable game. Man, I'm calming down, but I had it like at the end when, oh my God, when he moved his king instead of defending his rook. The shakes, my friends. And I take it, and that's game. And the wave of like shock and you've been pushing, you've been hoping to find the right thing for 3 hours. You're pushing to find that advantage. Wow, man, it's crazy. What a game! Wow. Okay, I gotta drive. It's late now. It's late. Good night. I bid you adieu. See you later. Bye-bye. High hopes. Keep faith in me. Keep helping me. You know what helps? Making this stuff. Explaining it. Making myself say this stuff. And talking about it. I'm teaching you, hopefully. I'm teaching someone something at some point, maybe. at the very least, saying it out loud helps me know what I know and sees what I don't know. So, this is great. I'm not ever stopping this. I'm going till I hit something good. And, I can't, you win one game and you think you're the Lord's Savior. But, and I still had to rely on a blunder to get, I didn't crush. I just happened to outlast. And that's what everyone says. That's what you just outlast your opponent. But I outlasted a 1600 level player, man. That's not nothing. I'm shocked. My points. It's hard not to think about it. I know I try to sweep around the point thing like it's no big deal, but it's not like you don't think about the potential rating boost of beating a 1600. It's not like it doesn't cross the old noggin, It's something to think about. Anyway, okay. Good night, my friends. Good night. Time to drive.